Do sleep trackers work?
Well, to finish that point first, so one of the issues with measuring sleep, right, is that people develop insomnia, or they develop sleep anxiety, and so their sleep quality is reduced as a result of just knowing it's being measured, which is an interesting phenomenon.
But it's not actually measuring your sleep. Sure, it's not.
No, yeah. So to answer that question, it's very difficult to measure sleep, because really what you need to know is brain activity. And so the typical lab-based studies would be in a closed environment. You wear this full cap of electrodes. Your devices like your watch, for example, use accelerometry to just measure movement. And so they try to identify when there is periods of low bodily movement, that is a predictor of sleep. So what they're very good at is measuring sleep duration. They're reasonably accurate for this, when you go to sleep and when you wake in the morning.
Yeah, because the body is sedentary. It's not moving about.
Yeah, it actually depends on what phase of sleep you're in, because there are some periods in the night you will be restless and you'll move around depending on these different sleep stages. But I think on that point is where we start losing confidence, in that now these devices are claiming that they can measure REM, rapid eye movement, they can measure deep sleep, they can measure these different key phases that might occur in an individual. And then they will start telling you that this is a high or low quality sleep regardless of length. And two issues with this is, one, we don't know what is optimal quality sleep. It might be highly individual for every different person. And secondly, it might also be highly individual for different people. People rely or have a higher REM sleep cycle versus a deep sleep cycle. Some people might have perfectly functional cognitive and physical capacity of a lower amount of sleep. And so one danger of many of these metrics is they try and fall in the trap of telling you, this is the number. You need to achieve this number and you will be good. Everything will be great. And unfortunately, we know with human physiology and individual nature of the biological organism that we are, that's not true, right? We're highly individual. And so we kind of lose the quality in that, and we probably over-assess, I think.
And we see people, I see with clients, like they're basing their whole lives around their sleep score and their watch. And they're like, I'm like, do you feel tired? No, but my watch says I didn't get great sleep last night. Well, like, you're gonna there's probably a sweet spot in between tech, science, and your own intuition and reading your body yourself.
And in that case, I'd say that's an unhealthy association with these devices, right? I think an important big picture question is, what are we trying to achieve? Okay, I think to zoom out a little bit here, and the context and the question in this podcast is around health. So you might then ask, is there any good evidence that says that as an advance in wearable technologies increasing, we get access to more health-related data, are people's health getting better? That's a fascinating question. And the answer is we don't know, and probably that we don't have any really good evidence that says that. What we do see is that we've got a huge amount of measurement devices, but that in the medium to long term, there's no actual meaningful behavior change in individuals. Most commonly, you see a novelty hump. In the first period of buying something, oh, this is cool and interesting.
We all do that.
Of course.
Yeah, but guilty as charged.
January, sign up for a gym after Christmas when people have eaten too much, and then by February, the gyms are empty.
It's even when you're buying the tech now. So my watch died, my last one died about 2 months ago maybe. And you go on the website, you're bamboozled by the quantity of stuff that they're telling you they're going to be able to tell you. And you really have to fight that urge to go for the really fancy one. But most of the stuff you'll never use, or you might for the first 4 weeks, and then you'll go back to using heart rate, speed, all the regular stuff.
And I have concerns with that, because it sells this idea that there is a solution in a packet, that you can pay something to have this device which is going to make you healthier. Part of the work that I do is teaching epidemiology of public health, and we spend a lot of time trying to really look at the social aspects and the long-term, the chronic changes in public health. And one thing that we're absolutely certain of, there is no doubt, that the factors that predict health-related diseases, so the modifiable things like cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, physical inactivity, they're very simple. People need to move more. They need to reduce chronic lifestyle stressors. They need to have good, adequate amounts of sleep, and they need to eat food that is less processed and high in natural foods and fruit and vegetables. That is the core truth of the human body and human physiology and health. That doesn't sell. It's not sexy.
Not sexy. No, it's not. Absolutely not. And yeah.
But unfortunately, that is the best evidence that we have. If people could just make those changes meaningfully, you don't need a watch to tell you how to do that. You don't need a device. You don't need any of these measurements. I am concerned that we're falling into a trap of consumerism where people just are overwhelmed with so much data, and as you said, like you looked for a new watch. You now, instead of having 3 metrics, you have 12. Which ones do you rely on? Which ones become part of your everyday life? And when there's too many, you become overly consumed and you don't listen to any of them. So we get...
Now, on that note then, which ones, so for anyone listening in who is thinking of buying a smartwatch, let's give them the metrics that we feel are fairly valid and important to have on that watch.
So you should start that question with, what is it that you're trying to achieve? What's the problem that you're trying to solve? Because different devices will do things in a different way. If the motivation is simply to move more, for example, I know I need to do more physical activity, and I think if I had a wearable that reminded me of this, well, something as simple as a step tracker is perfectly sufficient, right? And that is boring technology. That's old-fashioned. No one's interested in step trackers anymore. But a step tracker essentially just measures how much physical movement there is in that individual, and which is a moderate measure of physical activity. So unfortunately, my answers aren't going to be that attractive to the consumers who want the...
Heart rate is important. Even if it's fairly valid, fairly accurate.
As a rough estimate, yes, definitely. No doubt what you're saying, by the way. Heart rate is the single best intrinsic measure of stress that we have. So the biggest killer worldwide from a health perspective is cardiovascular disease, and we know that the single biggest modifiable factor is to allow for some moderate to vigorous physical activity on a regular basis in a week, okay? And people typically, when they think of physical activity, they think maybe going for a walk is sufficient or doing some low-intensity work. Now, this is very good for you, but for heart health, we need to increase the stressors on that cardiovascular system.